Hello? Hello? Who is this? Who?
Injured cold, and I see you in your room right now. Don't be
How do you know
afraid.
where I am?
I know where you live, and I know what you're doing right now.
What am I doing right now?
About to start the review.
The Mothman Prophecies was a psychological thriller from 2002 and was directed by Mark Pellington and stars Richard Gere, Laura Linney, and Will Patton, and is the story of a reporter who finds himself in Point Pleasant, West Virginia just around the same time that the Mothman has been terrorizing people all around the area. Soon he becomes fascinated with the Mothman story and learns that Mothman might be more than what it seems, as people in the area begin to have premonitions of things yet to come. Guys, I'll go ahead and say that Mothman Prophecies is not a film I'm very fond of. And if you've seen my previous video on Eyes of the Mothman, you know that the story is very interesting, and I really like it. But here, the story is so muddled and changed that it barely resembles the story that it's based on. The Mothman Prophecies is based on the book by John Keel, who did some investigating in the town of Point Pleasant around the time of the Mothman, and wrote this best-selling novel, and they finally turned it into a movie, and this is the product we get, and it's very disappointing. But before I get into my negatives, let's get into the positives. Let's talk about stuff that I like about the film. Honestly, I really like the direction that Mark Pellington was going for. I think he proves that he can be a very competent director. The film is very nice looking, it's shot well, and the direction of it is very interesting and has a very cold feeling to it. It almost has a feeling sort of like Silence of the Lambs, which I really like. That movie also feels very cold. And I just like the style of the movie overall. It's not completely generic, but it's nothing groundbreaking either. It's not like a David Fincher film, which I would probably prefer. But as it stands, it's pretty good. Also, I think the performances are very good here. I think Richard Gere gives a very good performance with the material he's given, as well as Laura Linney, and especially Will Patton. Will Patton is the best performance in this movie, and I'm sad that I really haven't seen anything else that he's ever been in, because he's a very good actor in this movie. His character has to deal with a lot of trauma as he has witnessed the Mothman and is constantly being harassed by this person that keeps contacting him called Injured Cold, which, if you've seen my Eyes of the Mothman documentary review, you'll know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about Injured Cold, who is this basically possibly an alien entity that keeps contacting people. And this causes some very tense scenes in the movie. That's another thing about the movie, is it can be very tense at times. It is a thriller after all. But it's very enjoyable at those points, and it's sad that some of that stuff is very few and far between. Also, I really like the finale of the film. Basically because I like the effects going on. It seems that people really took care into creating this sequence. And the sequence I'm talking about is, spoiler alert, the Silver Bridge collapse. This is a very intricate scene where they basically use a model of the bridge and it collapses, and it's just very well executed, and it's filmed very well and interesting, and it's just a very good highlight of the movie. However, it's at this point that I'm going to have to get into my negatives, and there's a lot of them. The first one, I'll just say, because it doesn't take too long to say, the movie is kind of dull and boring at times. It's only 2 hours, but it does drag on a lot. As I said the stuff that's really good, that's few and far between, is just filled with padding that feels very slow. The film is very slow, and that can take you out of the film. Now I'm going to get into the real problem I have with this film. Now, I know when you see a movie that's based on a true story, you have to take that with a grain of salt. And I understand that things need to be changed or altered to fit a specific running time, and I get that. However, when stuff starts becoming insulting and disrespectful, that's when I have a problem with it. This movie has that exact problem. On top of just the real story is much more interesting. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the film is complete bullcrap and doesn't follow the actual story or events of the Mothman at all. It makes up characters, which it makes me wonder if they couldn't use certain people's names and that's why they changed the characters' names. Or maybe that they just changed the script so much from the original source material that they're like, nobody's going to want their name attached. But yeah, it doesn't follow the story at all. In fact, the movie doesn't even take place in 1966 and 1967. It takes place in modern day. But this movie advertises itself as based on a true story. It's based on the Mothman Prophecies book. And it's taking place in 2001. That makes no sense to me, and it's really annoying that they did that. And also, one thing that is completely wrong with the movie and made me so mad, it just pissed me off so much, is at the end of the movie, when the bridge collapses, they state that 36 people died. Now, if this movie is trying to say that it's based on a true story, or at least based on the book that is based on the true story, then you would think that they would be respectful to even the Silver Bridge collapse. The collapse that claimed the life of 46 people. And the movie claims that 36 died. That makes me so mad, because I guess those 10 people don't matter enough. Now, maybe they just, did a typo or whatever, but no. If you're making a historical movie, you need to do your homework and make sure you don't mess up on stuff like that. You can change the story all you want, but when it starts being offensive to the people that actually died, that's stupid. That's horrible, and I just hate that about this. If it wasn't for that, as well as just not following the true story of the Mothman, this movie would just be another thriller that is easily disposable, but you can enjoy it. But this makes me so mad that I can't let it pass. I could let the movie slide with its different interpretation of the story if it didn't claim that it was based on a true story. But because of that, this movie it's so bad. It just makes me so mad. If it wasn't for that, this movie would just be fine. But it's not, and it really makes me mad. But I can't hate it too much, because there are certain stuff that I really like about the movie. As I said, I love the performances, I love the direction, I love that final scene. But the stuff with the people on the bridge that died, that's unforgivable and insulting. Hopefully one day somebody will come along that will make a Mothman Prophecies movie that tells the true story, or what we think is the true story of what happened in Point Pleasant, because that story is much more interesting than what this film tried to do. And with all that said, I give The Mothman Prophecies, a 4 out of 10. Guys, this movie made me so mad while I was watching it and just pissed me off to no end. But I enjoyed it for some of the time. Maybe if I didn't exactly know the Mothman story and wasn't around here, this movie would be completely fine to me. But because it's so close to home, I can't let these things slide. Anyway, guys, that's all I got to say about this film. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next review.